Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Shripad Anantansa Padiprajaka Ashto Tirasata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Sham Kund Radha Kundi Kiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Maharaj. Welcome everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam class. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. Today is Friday, April 21st, and today we're reading in the third canto, 16th chapter, entitled The Two Doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jai and Vijay, Cursed by the Sages. We are starting tonight with text 14. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you to Tulsi Priya, and thank you to all. Satim Yadaya Shrinvanto Lagvim Gurvartagam Gavaram Vigaya Gadha Gambhiram Navidus Tajtakir. The Lord's excellent speech was difficult to comprehend because of its momentous import and its most profound significance. The sages heard it with wide open ears and pondered it as well. But although hearing, they could not understand what he intended to do. Purport: it should be understood that no one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead in speaking. There's no difference between the Supreme Person and his speeches, for he stands on the absolute platform. The sages tried with wide open ears to understand the words from the lips of the Supreme Lord. But although his speech was very concise and meaningful, the sages could not completely comprehend what he was saying. They could not even comprehend the purport of the speech or what the Supreme Lord wanted to do. Nor could they understand whether the Lord was angry or pleased with them. Om Ajnana Timirantasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Koda Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jyutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Rijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shagana Lolita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Puri Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Lord Narayan has spoken at the gates of Vaikuntha, and the Kumaras are perplexed because his words were unfathomable. Agadham means very deep, unfathomable, and grave, Gambhira. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport is we could go through. Hearing attentively the words which were true, splendid, satyam, made of carefully chosen syllables, lagvim, difficult to understand because of deep meaning, with incomprehensible intention, agadha, that's unfathomable, and difficult external meaning, gambhiram, they pondered them, vikaya. Does the Lord praise us or condemn us? Will he arrange for the punishment we've decided, or limit it, or destroy it? Will he blame us for the offense? Will he treat his two servants with great mercy? We don't know his intention. The joy of the Lord is evident, but the censure of the Lord is not expressed directly. The Lord's censure is understood because of the conjecture of the frightened Kumaras and the revelation given through the Lord's clever use of words. Now he'll explain. It's understood there's censure because the Kumaras were concerned, they were fearful. In addressing the sages who were supposed to be omniscient, he said, "These are my two associates." This indicates, "Oh, fools, you cursed my associates. You've used too much force. Well, ignoring my intentions, they offended you. However, since previous to offending the Kumaras, the doorkeepers had not ignored the Lord's intentions. This is a crooked utterance by the Lord, indicating that a crooked utterance indicating that the Lord was actually angry with the Kumaras. And Vishwanath gives a sort of a complex explanation of how that's so. So he's not blaming the doorkeepers, he's blaming the Kumaras. That's the takeaway from that analysis. The punishment is permitted by me. That is, if I had not given my permission, the punishment ordered by you would not take place at all. Since it's later said, Brahmateja samarto pi hantum nechche matam tume. Though I'm capable of nullifying the curse, I don't desire to do so. The reason is that you would feel worthless if I canceled the curse. My respect for the Brahmins intoxicates you. So sort of mocking of the position here. You've cursed them, but your curses would be useless. They're only working because I'm allowing them to work. I'm only allowing them to work so you don't feel terrible at having your Brahmatejas do nothing. So I'm very respectful to the Brahmins, but you get carried away with that. I consider that I've committed the offense, the Lord says. This shows the Lord's great love for the doorkeepers, taking them as his very self. So it might be said that, oh, they've committed such a great offense against you, so I have to take the responsibility. And here it's taken the other way. No, I love the doorkeepers, so I regard them as my very self. Lord said, I've attained fame as a tirtha because of you. Vishwanath says, these are just words of respect for the sages. I should cut off my own arm. Since the Lord identifies the doorkeepers as his arms, the statement shows his great attachment to them. So it would have been taken, oh, they've offended you. I'd cut off my own arms for sages like you. But here it's taken that they're like my own arms, the doorkeepers. My feet are made pure by service to you. This again is just external praise by the Lord. Does the Lord's foot dust become pure by service to Brahmanas? Does that destroy all contamination? By that service, does Lakshmi never give up the Lord? Then I do not eat the offering of the sacrificer. That is, I eat the offering of the Brahmins. You Brahmins are fond of eating, therefore you must be fed. It is well known to the people that I eat through the mouth of the Brahmins. Kasam chadataha. Eating morsels can also mean that like a respectable cow grazing in the field, the Brahmin rejoices by the respect given to me. What you think gives me happiness is not service to me. Then the Lord had said, I have a wealth of powers because of holding the foot dust of the Brahmins on my crown. Because of that, my foot water purifies the whole universe, like the Ganga. Vishwanath says this type of respect is actually just a joke. The cows and Brahmins are not different from me, since they are my body. This is also a joke. I'm controlled by Brahmins who offend others. It's the natural quality of the Brahmins to become angry. I and my devotee laugh at them. I give natural tolerance only to my devotees, and I will be controlled by that alone. Because tolerance did not appear in Jai and Vijay at this time, I have shown indifference to them. Thus they've been cursed by you, and it will not be otherwise. Because I was not indifferent to Ambarish, there was no effect from the anger of Durvasa. On the contrary, the burning produced by my chakra was directly produced by me, a lover of Brahmins. Thus, Durvasa fell at the feet of Ambarish. So there's more, but so far we've seen this sort of equivocal communication by the Lord. Deep means, is it going this way? Is it going that way? We saw that when Brahma offered prayers to the Lord after having stolen and returned the cows and calves, Krishna was just silent. Here Krishna is speaking, there he was just silent. And Brahma couldn't understand that either. Is he angry? Is he pleased? He couldn't understand. And here, though the Lord is speaking, there are different ways of understanding what he said. We find that also someone speaks and or Prabhupada said something, and then the person who says it to is like wondering, is he praising me? Is he criticizing me? I'm not quite sure. So here that happened with the Kumars. Then the point is made that because the doorkeepers didn't control their anger, the Lord showed some indifference to them and therefore didn't show them the same kind of protection he'd shown for Maharaj Ambrish. That the Lord is displeased is also understood from the later statement of the Kumaras. Yam vanayordamamatisha bhavan vidatte vritim nuvat anuman mahi nirvyalika. Ashma shubhaya uchito driyadam sadando ye nagaso vayam ayungshmahi kilbishena. O Lord, whatever punishment you wish to award to these two innocent persons, or also to us, we shall accept without duplicity. We understand that we've cursed two faultless persons. All right, so there's sort of an extended discussion there of how the Lord's words were deep, what kind of depth they had, why they were unfathomable, why the Kumars couldn't quite make out whether the Lord was praising them or blaming them. Then this is Saraswati, I think. Yeah. Communications about spiritual matters are extremely vital. So how could there be any ambiguity to the words of the Lord? The transfer of spiritual information needs to be communicated and understood accurately, even that between the spiritual master and the disciple. Well, it doesn't have to be evident to be instructive. Sometimes there's an instruction that's equivocal or has several possible meanings, or to be understood this way or that way. And that also is part of the depth of the instruction. Instead of giving an instruction that's clear and straightforward on the surface, the spiritual master may give an instruction that you have to think about, that you have to ponder. That's also another mode of instruction. Also, there may be the spiritual master may want you to look at something from more than one angle of vision. And so you could look at it this way, you could look at it that way. Sometimes when there was some managerial decision, we saw that Srila Prabhupada wouldn't give a judgment. It would be, so what do you think? So what do you think? Asking different devotees. And it would be hard to understand which way Prabhupada was leaning on it. Or he would approve one argument and then approve the opposite argument. So that you'd really have to think about the question, not just superficially reach a quick answer. Those are some thoughts. There might be other thoughts. Anyone else who'd like to weigh in on this, feel free. Tulsi Priya.
Maharaj, I was just wondering if it seems that Prabhupada is more taking the side, so to speak, of the Kumaras, at least having read thus far, and the Lord is apologizing. He's asking as if, would you do me a favor and, allow them to return to me? And he's being very conciliatory towards the Kumaras. And I'm just wondering, but the Kumaras, I imagine, they must have felt something, once they they made this curse, and the doorkeepers are horrified and terrified by this curse. And then the Lord comes along and starts saying these conciliatory words. And I imagine, could there be like a consciousness of guilt? It's like, oh, we did a bad thing, and now the Lord is saying these nice things to us. Is he toying with us? Is he mocking us? We know we did something wrong, but he's saying, no, there's no fault in you, and please forgive my doorkeepers. You see what I'm saying? When you.
The Prabhupada says, The Kumars couldn't comprehend the purport of the Lord's speech or what he wanted to do, nor could they understand whether the Lord was angry or pleased with
Right.
them.
I guess I'm just saying is because they had a consciousness of guilt that they might have been.
I think that was mentioned previously. I think Prabhupada also mentioned it, and Vishwanath highlights it, that there was a sense of guilt on both sides.
Mhm.
The doorkeepers thought we shouldn't have done that, and the Kumars also thought we shouldn't have done that.
Follow-up question: is there a record of Brahman? I can't think of it right now, of any right now. But Brahman is retracting a curse, or is it sort of a point of pride that their words must hold true, so they don't retract curses?
They modify curses. That's what we usually see. The Narada says, "All right, you'll be born as trees, but in the art of Krishna." They do these things. Usually we hear that the curse isn't retracted, but it's altered in such a way that it favors the person cursed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Panchatattva Prabhu.
So Raj, I was thinking that, and of course it's my speculation, of course, but the Lord responding in such an equivocal way, but he was also weighing things in different ways when he said these things. And I was almost thinking maybe he's telling the Kumaras, before you decide such things, you should look at it from more than one angle of vision.
The Lord was speaking in an equivocal way, and part of the purport, it was a little difficult to hear what you said, but part of the purport could be that, listen, my dear sages, before you curse someone, you should look at things from more points of view than one. Yeah, nice. Thank you. More? The Lord looks at things from more angles of vision than one. So the sages should also do that. Okay. Te yoga maya rabdha parameshya mahodayam prochu pranjalaya vipra prarishta shupita tvachaha. The four Brahmin sages were nevertheless extremely delighted to behold him, and they experienced a thrill throughout their bodies. They then spoke as follows to the Lord, who had revealed the multi-glories of the Supreme Personality through his internal potency, Yogamaya. Purport: the sages were almost too puzzled to speak before the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the first time. Too puzzled to speak before him for the first time, and the hairs of their bodies stood erect due to their extreme joy. The highest opulence. I found that too in one occasion. When Prabhupada first came to New York and gave me initiation, the next day, I think, I was dispatched to Boston to assist Govinda Dasi in cooking for Srila Prabhupada. And one day I burned a vegetable. We didn't serve it to Prabhupada, or we didn't serve a burned portion to Prabhupada, but Prabhupada knew the kitchen was just across from his room. And Prabhupada chewed me out, why this vegetable is burned. You have no brain. So he lambasted me. But I have to admit that I felt so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada was giving me was blasting me. I'd heard that it was fortunate if the spiritual master rebukes the disciple. And here he was rebuking me, so I felt not only chastened, but happy. So here the sages weren't sure whether they were being lambasted or not, but they felt thrilled just to be hearing from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they were in ecstasy, their hairs standing on end. And they were almost too puzzled to speak. The highest opulence in the material world is called Parameshcha, the opulence of Brahma. But that material opulence of Brahma, who lives on the topmost planet within this material world, cannot compare to the opulence of the Supreme Lord, because the transcendental opulence in the spiritual world is caused by Yogamaya, whereas the opulence in the material world is caused by Mahamaya. I think that's a distinction we're familiar with. Again, we'll look at Vishwanath Chakravarti's Thakur's purport. Considering for a long time whether the Lord favored or condemned them, they concluded that the Lord was pleased with them, and thus they rejoiced. They spoke to the Lord, who had revealed great powers by his Yogamaya from the beginning. If the most powerful Lord, who is not dependent on anyone else, has criticized us in the form of praise, and we will be punished, then he would say clearly that we Brahmins should fall to hell, since we offended his devotees. Considering in this way, their hairs stood on end. If he was really angry with us, he'd say something like, now you have to go to hell. So since he didn't say that, he must be pleased with us. That's the conclusion they came to. Anything further here? Okay, Saraswati says, sometimes when we stand, Kumars were too puzzled to speak. Sometimes when we stand before great personalities, we become so overwhelmed in awe and reverence that the brain can stop working properly and speech becomes difficult. We experience this when we stand before our puja gurus too. I experienced this for the first time when I met a very advanced devotee, my father's aunt, who lived in Jatpur and was known there as Pulbari, as she made all the garlands for the Govardhan Nath deity in Jatipur. I blurted out to her when she asked, "How are you?" that I wished to be just like her. I felt so embarrassed, but her smile was comforting. Her reply was that I needed to find a worthy person, a devotee to aspire to be like. Yes. So that experience can be there, that by hearing from the spiritual master or an advanced devotee, one doesn't know what to think. One's brain becomes puzzled, or one just becomes overwhelmed. Thank you for that. Now let's see. This might be Praveen. It is Praveen. A Brahmin's curse ineffective against devotees. An example is given. 9th canto. Once in the darkness of night, a tiger seized a cow from the cow shed. And when Prashadra came to know this, he took a sword in his hand and followed the tiger. Unfortunately, when he finally approached the tiger, he couldn't distinguish between the cow and the tiger in the dark. And thus he killed the cow. Because of this, his spiritual master cursed him to take birth in a Shudra family. But Prashadra practiced mystic yoga, and in bhakti yoga, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he voluntarily entered a blazing forest fire, thus relinquishing his material body and going back to Godhead. It's interesting. I don't know quite what to think of that. Did he nullify the curse, or just did he nullify the body? It's kind of like chapter 11, where you're bankrupt, but you get a chance to reorganize your affairs. This is an American legal practice. You get a chance to reorganize your affairs with some protection from the court. So I wonder here, was the curse nullified, or was it simply that that he gave up his body, and so the body is essentially against which the curse was uttered was destroyed. So that he paid, as Tulsi Priya says, paid the price for the crime by giving up his body, or you could say paid a higher price and just cursed to take birth in a Shudra family. But instead, I'm going to give up my body, which, yes, Sananta Shesh says, isn't that suicide? Yes, it's suicide. But it seems that it's looked on without disapproval here. You'd have to look at that pastime with Prashadra and see all the ins and outs of it. What's happening there? With the cursing of Parikshit Maharaj, we hear that the curse could have been nullified by the Lord, but the Lord didn't do it, and the Parikshit could have prayed to the Lord for protection, but he didn't. Please nullify the curse. He didn't pray for that. But that does lead to another nullification of, well, it wasn't a curse exactly, but Ashwatthama, who was a Brahmin, fired the Brahmastra against the embryo of Maharaj Parikshit, and the Lord essentially nullified the effect by protecting the king in embryo. Yes, Supriya.
Maharaj, I was just wondering about something. I find it, this pastime is not something that happens all the time, Prabhupada has said. And it just seems extraordinary on another level also, that these are doorkeepers. And I don't know what kind of relationships, how they manifest in Vaikuntha, but it seems that everybody has their role to play, and the doorkeepers are doorkeepers, and they're not perhaps not having intimate dealings with the Lord. They do their service and they're happy. But then when they become cursed to become demons, it seems like there's a lot more involvement between the Lord and them, in ways that might not have been, going on when they were doorkeepers in Vaikuntha. So it seems extraordinary to me that, they go from being doorkeepers, which seems, not so extraordinary, to having this very intense relationship of enmity with the Lord. And I wonder, if that's kind of an ecstasy in itself, where you're so absorbed in the Lord, even though it's in anger or envy or whatever, but still you're very, very wrapped in thought of the Lord. So that's like, it's like a benediction, even though it's a curse.
Well, there's two things. One is that you're getting personal attention from the Lord here. The Lord is personally coming to their gateposts to sort things out for them. So that in itself is a special blessing. As you say, it's not just the routine and just not just another day in Vaikuntha. It's special. And then, yeah, there's this, even though they later became demons, there was an excellence to their demonic mentality in that they were always absorbed in thinking of Krishna. That's also there. We hear about that the demons have a certain excellence, but unfortunately, their consciousness is pratikul, not anukul. So they don't get the same kind of blessings afforded to the devotees. Anything else?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Rishya uchuhu navayam bhagavan vidmas tava deva chakirshitam krito me nugrahas cheti yadadyaksha prapashashe. The sages said, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, we're unable to know what you intend for us to do. For even though you are the supreme ruler of all, you speak in our favor as if we had done something good for you. Purport. The sages could understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is above everyone, was speaking as if he were in the wrong. Therefore, it was difficult for them to understand the words of the Lord. They could understand, however, that the Lord was speaking in such a humble way, just to show them his all-merciful nature. So this is a further indication from the Kumaras that they couldn't really understand what the Lord was saying. They understood that the Lord was showing them mercy, but they didn't quite understand what the Lord intended. They didn't quite understand. Although they're supposed to be omniscient, they didn't understand. See if there's anything else here. Anugraha, they understood that they'd been favored by Adhyaksha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the overseer or master of everything. Brahmanyasya param daivam brahmana kilate prabho vipranam deva devanam bhagavan atma daivatam. O Lord, you are the supreme director of the Brahminical culture. You're considering the Brahmins to be in the highest position is your example for teaching others. Actually, you are the supreme worshipable deity, not only for the gods, but for the Brahmins also. So you're Vipranam Deva Devanam, you're the Deva of all the Devas, Deva Deva Jagatpate. Purport. In the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes. There are undoubtedly many demigods. the chiefs of whom are Brahma and Shiva. Lord Vishnu is the Lord of Brahma and Shiva, not to speak of the Brahmins in this material world. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord is very favorable toward all activities performed according to Brahminical culture, or the qualities of control of the senses and mind, cleanliness, forbearance, faith in scripture, and practical and theoretical knowledge. The Lord is the supersoul of everyone. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord is the source of all emanations. Thus, he's also the source of Brahma and Shiva. The Brahmins, the Kumaras, have been praised, but here they praise the Lord as the master of the Brahmins. Vishnu says, paraphrases, only because you are fond of the Brahmins do the Brahmins have a high position. They don't have that position naturally. And Atmadaivatam means without you, they're simply dead. So what's the meaning of saying that without service to them, your foot dust has no power? Atmadaivatam, you're the Atma, you're the soul of the Brahmins. So Atmadaivatam, rather you're the Atma of the demigods, the Devas. Atmadaivatam, without the Atma, the body is dead. So without you, the Devas, the demigods, have no life. All right, anything else here? Okay, we have more on Prashadra from the purport. Praveen is posting. It appears that Vashishta was not free from tamagun, the mode of ignorance. As the family priest or spiritual master of Prashadra, Vashishta should have taken Prashadra's offense very lightly, but instead Vashishta cursed him to become a Shudra. Devotional service performed by thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so powerful that although Prashadra was cursed, he avoided the terrible consequence of becoming a Shudra and instead returned home back to Godhead. So here Srila Prabhupada indicates that Prashadra escaped the curse by devotional service. By devotional service. Devotional service puts one on the transcendental position beyond the curses and counter curses of this material world. Where in Chaitanya Charitamrita, one Brahmin was dissatisfied with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and cursed him by saying, "You'll have no material happiness." He broke his thread, broke his own Brahmin thread, and cursed him. "You'll have no happiness." So the Lord was very pleased by that. And I believe the Shruti Pal, the blessing given to the readers, is that anyone who hears this pastime becomes free from the effect of the curses of a Brahmin. Maybe, Praveen, you could look that up and see. I believe that's what blessing given was. So that's, I don't I suspect it doesn't mean that you should offend the Brahmins and then quickly read that section of Chaitanya Charitamrita to become free from the consequences. But I believe that benediction was given. Saraswati says, was Srila Prabhupada cursed that he wouldn't stay in one place for too long? Well, he said that Narada Muni was cursed by Daksha because of converting, essentially, Daksha's sons into brahmacharis, persuading them to give up the prospects of happiness in family life. So the Daksha thought that, well, I'm a saintly person because I'm performing my prescribed duties, and this Narada Muni, he's just a troublemaker. So he cursed Narada that you won't be able to stay in one place for very long. And Prabhupada, what's the word, charmingly comments that he's also been cursed by the parents of his disciples, as Narada was cursed by the parents of the Haryashvas and Shavalasyas. And therefore, Prabhupada said he couldn't stay in one place for too long. Of course, Prabhupada, because of his mission, was always moving, but he charmingly put it that way, that it must have been because of the curse of the disciples of his parents. And Anantashesh says it's interesting to read the qualifications of a Brahmin from the previous verse. Let's see. That was there.
Maharaj, it is in the purport.
Yeah. It's hard to find things quickly on a Kindle. Lord is very favorable to all activities performed by the Brahmins according to Brahminical culture, or the qualities of control of the senses and mind, cleanliness, forbearance, faith in scripture, and practical and theoretical knowledge. Samadhamma tapashosham shantir arjavamevacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma subhavacha. This is the description in the 18th chapter of the qualifications of a Brahmin. Samadhamma, control of the senses and mind. Tapa shocham. Tapa is not, Prabhupada doesn't gloss it here, but shocham, cleanliness. Shanti, tolerance or forbearance. Arjavam, Prabhupada doesn't mention here, but Arjavam is straightforwardness. But well, yes, Prabhupada makes it, and then astikyam is faith in scripture, and jnana vijnana. Jnana vijnana means, as Prabhupada says, practical and theoretical knowledge. Practical and theoretical knowledge. So Brahma Karma Shubhavajam. Yes. Yes, it's nice to see how Prabhupada weaves in here the Brahminical qualifications. Yes, and here's the section from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Samsara Shuka Tomar Hauka Vinash Shapashuni Prabhurchite Vailo Vilash. The Brahmin cursed the Lord. You shall be bereft of all material happiness. Samsara Sukha. Tomar, your material happiness. Hauka Vinash, it will all be destroyed. Shapshuni Prabhurchite Hoile Ulash. Hoilo Ulash. When the Lord heard this, he felt great jubilation within himself. Prabhushap Vartaje Shune Shraddhavan Brahmashap Hoy Tetar Hoy Paritran. Any faithful person who hears of this Brahmin's cursing Lord Chaitanya is delivered from all Brahminical curses. So yes, there's mitigation of a Brahminical curse if we simply hear about this pastime of the Brahmins cursing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You'll have no material happiness. Of course, it was a benediction, and the Lord felt overjoyed. Very nice curse. Really good. No material happiness. So anyone who faithfully hears Shraddhavan will be delivered from all Brahminical curses. What is that in the... It's quoted in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu from Padma Purana, that all the results of sinful activities are destroyed by devotional service, including the mature results, the results that are almost mature, the results from activities we're performing now, or which we might be thinking of performing, or for which the seed of desire to perform is there. All of those sinful reactions are canceled by pure devotional service. All right. Anything else? We have a few minutes more. Let's see who hasn't led kirtan for a while.
Hare Krishna.
That's Pandit Prabhu.
Haribo.
Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jai Om Vishnuvad Paramhansa Pariprajacharya Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Adanta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Sridhar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. Thank you, Mahendra Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Shara. Hare Krishna. That sounded like Panchatattva, who's got this sort of weird filter on his voice in his car.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Shraddha. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful talks. Wonderful talks.
Thank you, Meena.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Not quite sure who was there. You were off my screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. And thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. Please share the class links with your friends, and we look forward to seeing all of you again on Monday for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Haribol.